Okay, my friends, it's Roger once again. A little upbeat today. Some very, very good news from research into the microbiome, which is a big area that I've been looking into deeply. Just came out today, and they're talking about treatment of inflammatory bowel disease. That's where you always got problems with your gut. Now, why in the first place do you have a problem with your gut? It's because you don't have the correct bacteria. So they have figured out a way of using these little encapsulated nanobacteria and coating them with a certain way so that they will engraft right into the biology. Now let's get a little deeper in here. But the thing is, they're looking at treating irritable bowel disease. But irritable bowel disease is the progenitor of all diseases, because something's going wrong down there. You can't absorb correctly. And if you don't absorb correctly down there, all the other enzymes in your body won't be working because your bacteria are destroyed down in there. We're going to get into that. Probacteria, probiotics, and these layers of the membrane. Now, don't forget, this is for doctors, basically. This is not, you're not going to get anything out of this, and I don't ever make recommendations about what you should or should not do with your health. That's you and your doctor, whatever. I do research, and that's all this is. So I've been blocked before because I'm showing what the research is. This is today's research. This is not, this has to be exposed and talked about, and that's exactly what I intend to do right now. Okay. A lot of people are going to say, oh, bacteria, that's bad for you. No, that is not the case. There's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. You need both of those at the same time in your body. You have to have both of them or your body won't function. And you say, well, why would I need flesh-eating bacteria in my body? Well, because your flesh dies all the time. What are you going to do with it? What do you expect to happen to it? It's just lay around in there? It's going to get eaten up by something. It's going to break it all down, deliver it into the lymph system, which never even gets considered anymore that I can see. Again, this is for doctors. This has nothing to do with your own personal health. But lymph is what really is the system that clears all the toxins out of your body. And that lymph only works if it has the right chemistry. And how does the right chemistry get there? Well, there's something called bacterial enzymes. We're going to look at that in a second. But first of all, here's the key. This is bacteria versus enzymes versus chemicals. Well, what makes your body run? Chemicals. Every single thing that happens in your body, 100% is done by chemicals. 100%. 100%. The only way these chemicals can get formed in these magnificently elegant shapes is by enzymes. And wait till I show you what an enzyme does. It'll blow your mind. And the only way you can get enzymes is from bacteria. So it starts with the bacteria. You don't have the bacteria, nothing works. You're never going to get to the chemicals because you don't have the enzymes to break down the things that are coming through you to create the chemicals. These are the factories. Let's see, somewhere down it says, better put, it's the factories. Bacteria are the factories that produce enzymes. The enzymes produce the chemicals. Without that, you're done. Okay, so we know we need bacteria to make the enzymes. Where do the enzymes come from? They are actually in these little things called ribosomes. I'll show you that happen in a second. Bacteria are single cell. That's one cell, tiny cell. They have what they call little organelles and things, and they have DNA, and that DNA that is their DNA creates a program that says, here's what I'm going to make. I'm going to make these exact ribosomes, and they're going to be exactly the same every time. And then I'm going to squirt them out into the environment, and they are going to go and attack things. And I'll show you what they do. They're not just a ball that rolls over something. That unfolds, and when you see it unfold, it'll break your mind open. This is the flagellum. Well, most of them have flagella, some don't. But that goes through the fluid-filled highway that was just discovered. And I'm going to tell you right now, I knew about this for 10 years because of the work I did on the mudfossils, which were preserved in a certain way because of the membranes. And that has a membrane around it. every single cell in your body, even every blood cell, has a membrane. And I'll show you the membrane in a second. But this ribosome is the key to creating the enzymes. All right, so don't forget, we need the bacteria to create the enzymes, to create the chemicals. So we got the bacteria. Now, where is the enzyme? The enzyme is in that little blue thing. Here's what the enzymes look like when they come out. They come out in these balls, which has a sheath around it, and that just unfolds and unwraps, and then out pops the enzymes, which also are proteins. They're both the same, basically. And enzymes are also viruses. They're identical, same thing. Comes from a non-living thing, because that's not alive. All right? That's just a program. Basically, it's a program. And I'll show you how that program works in a second. It's made out of polypeptides. And when it unfolds, the program here, and it's all magnetic. Very, very, very complicated. I'll show you what they look like in their actual magnetic configuration. All right, that is the most exotic thing you can ever imagine. And when it comes out exactly the same way every single time, or it doesn't work. Now, chunks of this do certain things. They can create little chunks of this and chunks of that, and this might inhibit something or methylate something, which means to turn it on or turn it off. So when they create little drugs and things, they may be able to make a little package like over here that does one little thing. But this is so well engineered. It says, don't bother that guy. You leave this guy alone. You stop doing what you're supposed to do. You do this with the sugar, and I will do the one little thing that I'm supposed to do. And all the rest of you guys make sure you don't interfere with anything else. That's what a real enzyme does. It's so sophisticated that it's your immune system are your enzymes. That's your immune system right there. You know, let me just go a little deeper with this. This is what side effects are all about. If you have, say this thing here says, I want to poke holes in bilipid membranes. And I want to do it to the ones that have salts, excessive salts, like say kidneys or whatever. Well, it also says to the rest of the guys, this killer thing here is only used in salt environments in the kidneys. Don't you bother the liver, don't you bother the heart, don't you bother, and then if you don't have all of this, because all they can make is this one little piece, they send it in, that's what, you know, these other conditions are, you get, which are the side effects. So they say, well, you take this and you may have kidney failure, you might have this, you might have that. Well, it's designed to do one certain job, but all of these things tell the rest of the organs in your body not to be affected. Somehow, it's that elegant. I mean, look at the damn thing. And this thing, one single enzyme, and it doesn't even get used up, when it comes up to a mass of target molecules, and there might be 200,000 of them, it comes up, just one single enzyme like that. And with all its click, this is called click chemistry, it's all magnetic, it goes click, and they all done. Whatever it's going to do to them happens that fast. And it does, they say, these are the words of the experts, in the molecular breakdowns, it can do hundreds of years of chemistry in a tenth of a second. And it does it to all other molecules that are attached to that same mass that it attacked, like cancer. That's how cancers are killed. But you have to have the right chemistry to go out and kill them. And now they're starting to, you look up virtually any disease now, and fecal matter transplants, which is nothing more than these enzymes. And the enzymes only get there because of the fecal matter, which has the bacteria. The bacteria resides in your gut, and your gut is where everything flows through and it becomes fecal matter. So this is nothing more than a product of bacteria, which is in your gut, which is it's loaded with fecal matter, and that's how they get these enzymes. You can't just make these. You can't just go and say, okay, I'm gonna click, and I make one. No, hell no. Bacteria is the most elegant chemists. Those things, chemistry is just unbelievable. And there is tens of thousands of species in your body, and everyone creates something different. And they come out like that. All right, I'm going to show you how they originally start. They come in chains. So let's say, remember I said before, we can make one little thing that does this right here. But it might do it to all kinds of other places too, if it's those other places are not turned off. And there's a thing called methylation, and then there's tumor necrosis factor. There's all kinds of chemistry. It's all chemistry. But methylation basically turns a gene on or off. All right, I always like to back up what I say. DNA methylation. DNA is all of the program in your body, and you turn something on or you turn it off, and that's what DNA methylation does. The DNA methylation regulates gene expression. They say this chunk of DNA represents turning on or off something in your body. Well, you have to turn it on. The program might be there, but if you can't turn it on, for some reason, whatever. And I'm going to tell you, everything that's done in your body is through chemistry, and the only thing that happens from chemistry is from the enzymes. And the only way you get the enzymes from the bacteria, the only way you got the bacteria is if they live in these bilipid membranes. Let me show you. And I also understand the reason this new process works is because what they're doing with the phospholipids, the phosphates. I'll show you. It's the process. Well, I got it all figured out, I think. And doctors need to understand this, because this is very complicated, and it takes a little while to figure this out, but I think I got it. All right, this is the key to the whole thing. Phosphorus, phospholipid bilayers, phosphorus, fatty. There's fatty acids and all watery stuff in there between those two membranes. Now, it says all cells, every single cell in your body, have this plasma membrane. The membrane surrounds the cell, so what is its role? Well, it's to protect it, and what lives in here is the bacteria that protects it, and it's now being designated as a new organ. They didn't realize how complex this was. All right, so you know that's a phospholipid, phosphorus. We want something to bind with phosphorus easily and then let the enzymes or bacteria engraft into this layer here. Otherwise, you can't get through that barrier. But encapsulating it in phospho materials, and I'll show you how they did. They made these little tiny capsules, which probably just about break right through here, and they made it the same material basically, so they sort of mold in there. That's all I can think, because even they talk about remolding. All right, this is about irritable bowel disease, IBD, and it's inflammatory, and it's because the membranes are being eaten through because you don't have the enzymes inside to fight back because the bacteria is not there. So the membranes are being destroyed. Now, what they're doing is putting in these new probiotics in a tiniest capsule. And I'm going to explain to you how they manufacture it and why it will work its way right in there and should do exactly what they say it will do in graft. The engraftment's always been the problem. Engrafting means how you get the bacteria to stay. All right, so this is what they're trying to do, is make these nano enzymes constructed named nanoprobiotics and make them adhere to inflamed colon walls in the intestinal area, and then, engraft, they call it. It's become part of that substrate. Now, moreover, combined with the anti-inflammatory medicine metformin, the nanoprobiotics could further remold the pro-inflammatory microenvironment. They reset that stage so that it becomes an impenetrable barrier if you have the right probiotics growing in there. And it improves the overall richness and diversity of the gut microbiome. Yes, because they're going to be living in there now, not just passing through. Let me show you. All right, remember I talked about metformin. We're going to look into that in a second. But this is your gut, and this is where you absorb all kinds of things. So it has to be able to pass in and out, but only the stuff that's allowed to pass through. When you get a damage, all kinds of stuff can go right through there. But it's damaged. Now, when they put these microcapsules in there, the reason they adhere to here, because they coat them with phosphorus. phosphates. And this is phospholipids. They just bind right in there, and they just fit them where, and they just become part of the gut, and they become part of the microbiome. And then this will heal itself, and then you'll be good. But normally the stuff just passes through you, and it won't bind because of the phosphorus, the phosphomembrane layer. Let me explain to you. I hope I explained to you. All right, here's what they did. They took these nanoparticles of bacteria. The bacterial culture was centrifuged at 4,000 RPM. Centrifuge just means they spin it to get all of the fluids to go out of it for 20 minutes, and the supernatant, which is what's left over, was filtered through a very tiny membrane, very thin, so that it let everything out other than the tiniest little particles. The filtrate was concentrated by ultrafiltration with a very, very concentrated way of doing it. And then the concentrate was ultra centrifuged at 200,000 times gravity for 2 hours. And it goes on and on and on. The vesicle pellets were then, and they made little pellets out of it, that were then, now here's the key, resuspended in phosphate buffered saline. So it's got salty phosphorus, PBS, phosphate buffered saline. That's what you need, is phosphorus, because you need it to bind into the phospholipid membranes. And then it was washed twice with more of that stuff, phosphobuffered saline, and then filtered through a very fine membrane, and then is when they put it in, apparently. I'm just starting to understand this. I'm looking into it now. And this just came out, so there's a lot to think about. But if they can make it engraft into that layer right there, if they can make it start living in there, you're pretty good to go. Now, why would it be up here if we're talking about the digestive system? All enzymes and all bacteria live down in there, basically. And when they're dispatched, they may come up and live up here. I don't know. But they're certainly going to be living down here. Now, there's some going to be living up here. I think these are the frontline troops. And down in your gut is where everything is manufactured. Pretty much your gut breaks down the food, creates all your vitamins and minerals and all that stuff, because it has to break it down and build it back up again. Very, 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 very complicated little buggers. And here's how they do it. They use those ribosomes, and they take the program, and then they take a bunch of polypeptide chains like this, and you have 20 different amino acids. So the programming here is just unbelievable. It's not like just ones and zeros. You got 20 different amino acids, so you can have 20 different program codes on each ball. And it just comes down here and it makes these RNA codes, and then it goes out and inserts itself into the DNA, or whatever it does. In this case, they're going to make something that'll go break up foods and things like that. But, it's a very complicated system, but it's all driven by bacteria. It's all driven. And here's something about lysosomes. Wait a minute. All right, we're talking about the metformin. It's a widely used drug, results in clear benefits in relation to glucose metabolism, so forth. Well, how does it work? What's the mechanism? It works by inhibition of mitochondrial respiration, but also perhaps by inhibition of mitochondrial glycophosphate. Really, they don't know how it works. And a mechanism involving the lysosome. Well, we're going to look at that in 1 second. In the last 10 years, we have moved from a simple picture from metformin improves glycochemia by acting on the liver, the liver is where all kinds of toxic stuff is fixed, to a much more complex picture reflecting its multiple modes of action. Well, this is the lysosome. This is the multiple mode of action. More work is required to truly understand how this drug works into a target population. Well, let's look at lysosomes, because that's the key. It's a new thing. It could involve lysosomes. Well, I'm sure it does. And what is a lysosome? A lysosome is a membrane-bound cell organelle. It's a little bacteria type thing that's bound in the membrane. It's an organelle. It works like an organ to create enzymes and things. It contains digestive enzymes. These are the things. These are what we need, those little bacteria to come, or these little nanoparticles to come in and get bound. They're organelles. They squirt out digestive enzymes, but they can only be bound if the bacteria is in there. The bacteria is what creates the digestive enzymes. They're missing the step in the middle, or the most important part is without the enzymes, you're never going to get the digestive enzymes. I mean, without the bacteria, you're never going to get there. You could have the organelle there, but if there's the bacteria that's supposed to be working inside of it's dead, it's not going to work. It's all about the bacteria. All right, in my mind, the whole key to this is this outer structure being able to just incorporate itself, being that it is the phospholipid phosphorus chemistry. But inside of that, you have to have all the different bacteria. I mean, and there's no reason you can't make a mix of a bazillion different ones, and the ones that are needed will just start adhering, and the ones that aren't will just get squirted out in the poop. And that's how it works with your body right now. If it's working fine, they can take this fecal matter and it's saturated with these probiotics. So they're coming and going all the time. So it's not like you lose them and they're gone, they're not going to come back. No, if they're living in here, that's the key. And they're always coming in and out, and that's why you poop them out, and that's why they use fecal matter to find these probiotics that are from a person's healthy body, because they're shed. They're not like rejected, they just shed off. They're always being in there invading the food and breaking down food and stuff. They have to do that. That's their job. So they're going to be coming and going now. If we can get enough of them packed into these different things, and you could have, right now I know they can separate all these out, these different bacteria strains. I don't know if they can separate all of them, but they got a ton of them that they understand now how important they are. And certain ones, lactobacillus and so forth, are just absolutely essential. So anyway, I guess I'm going to leave it at that for now. But the key to this whole thing is, if this works out and they can make these things adhere, that's the whole key. That's the key right there. And understanding the lysosomes are these membrane-bound cells, and they have to have the bacteria to create the digestive enzymes. They're the factories. So the bacteria is the key. All right, bacteria, living cells. They produce enzymes. All right, thank you. I love you all, and hopefully doctors will see this, or you might even mention it to your doctor. Do you know about the interstitium? Do you know? Well, that's the problem. It's hard to approach anybody that's supposed to be the expert, but I got to be honest with you. I'm seeing a lot of these experts are just not looking into what's currently being exposed. In all kinds of different ways. It's not just this. Because once you're locked into a train of thought, you just lose sight of everything else. And that's what I have found has happened in the human race. I guess it's always been that way. Like Max Planck said, there's no new science. It only comes about after somebody dies off. I think the actual phrase was, science advances one funeral at a time. All right, I love you all. Take care. Bye.